Hello class again and welcome to another lesson of JavaScript playlist. In this particular lesson we are going to look at the concept of JavaScript arrays. In our previous lesson we looked at the JavaScript objects and we saw how to create an object and how to initialize an object and how to access the properties of that object. In this lesson we focus on the JavaScript arrays. The objective of this lesson is 1. To help you understand what is an array, 2. To be able to declare and initialize an array object, 3. To be able to understand the concept of accessing an array elements, 4. To be able to update the array values or array elements, and 5. To be able to look and understand some of the few array methods that we will look at. So without further ado, let's get started. JavaScript array is an object that stores data in a collection or a data in a list. So if you have any data or you have any list of data, the best data type to use is the JavaScript arrays. So it is a list of values or a list of elements. The elements in an array are indexed or numbered starting from index 0. We are going to look at that. In JavaScript, the way we create an array, we use this syntax right here. So we declare a constant value variable, for example languages, and then we assign a list of languages, and each of those list items are separated using the comma. And then after declaring the array, we are going to be able to access the array elements. We can also change or update any particular array element, and we can be able to use some of the array methods to manipulate the array data. So if you look at this array that we declared here, this array is called languages. This is the variable name, and we have assigned a list of programming languages. This is how we define a list. We use the square brackets, and then within the square brackets we provide a list of items, and each of the item is separated using the full quotation, the comma. And if you look at this list, it has 3 items. This is the first item, the second item, and the third item. And we said the array elements are indexed or numbered starting from 0. So we could say that Java is at position 0 of this list. JavaScript is at position 1 of this list. Python is at position 2 of this list. In despite it has 3 elements, the highest position is 2 because the numbering of these items within the list starts from 0, 1, 2, and so on. And therefore, to access any of the element within the array, we refer to the element position. So when we say languages square bracket 1, then we are accessing the item at position 1. And we can as well use the same to update. So when we say languages 0 equals to Kotlin, we are trying to access the item at position 0, which is Java in this case, and then we are going to assign it a new value, Kotlin, so that now the new value which will be stored in this position will be updated from Java to Kotlin. So without further ado, let's get started and take a practical example to see how we can create a symbol array and how we can access and update the values. So I'm going to turn over to my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to remove this one now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a variable using the const keyword, and this variable I'm going to call it programming languages. Programming languages. And I'm going to assign a list of programming languages. The way I assign a list is to use the square bracket, and then within the square brackets we are going to assign we are going to list the number of languages that we know. So the first is Java, second is JavaScript, and third I'm going to say Python. Fourth I'm going to say maybe C++. This way we have been able to create an array. So this is an array of programming languages, and this is the variable name, programming languages. So I want to print this array, so I can print and say console.log programming languages. So when I run this program, you're going to see we have a list of these programming languages that have been printed on the screen, and this has been printed exactly the same way we have declared it here. But now let's say we want to access just one item within that list. We want to print Python only. So to print that Python, we are going to say use the variable name and then the square brackets and then the position of this item. So the position of this item is 2 because the array starts indexing from 0, 1, 2. So Python is at position 2, and here we are going to use the position 2. And now when we save this program and run it again, you're going to see now that Python is printed because we are accessing the element or the item at position 2. If we change this position to 0, then we are going to access Java as a language. The same thing, we can update values using the indexing position. So let us say we want to update JavaScript to another language. So we're going to say programming languages at position 1 should be assigned a new value, and this value we can call it C#. So what we have done on this line 19, we have updated the array element, and on the line 19, line 20, we are now accessing the element or at position 0. And so now when we update on this line, let us now access that element on line 1 at position 1 to see if it changes. So now I'm going to put 1 right here, and now I'm going to print the program again. Now you see it updates. Let me save. I have not saved the changes, so let me clear the console, and now I'm going to run. So you can see now it outputs C# on the screen. That is because the initial array values, we had JavaScript at position 1, but on line 19 we have updated it to C#, and then on line 20 we are now printing the element at position 1. So the element at position 1 will no longer be JS, but rather it will be C#. So that's all about accessing and updating the array elements. We can also learn some of the array methods. So array has a number of methods which are defined by the JavaScript, and in this video we're going to look at some of these array methods. So the first method we're going to look at is the array length. The length method helps you to return the number of elements in an array without you having to count. So we know well that this array called programming language has 4 elements. But assuming there are so many elements that it's not possible to count manually, then you can use an array method to determine how many elements or how many items are within this array. So what I'm going to do, we're going to log and say console.log, and here we're going to say programming languages dot, and you see when you say dot, you can see there are a number of array methods that are predefined by JavaScript language. An example is concatenate, which is used to join two arrays, the filter, which is used to filter the array, the find, which is used to find a particular element, find index, find the last item, find last index, and so on and so forth. The method I'm interested in this is the length method. So what this method does is that it prints the number in a digit showing how many elements are in that array. So let me save, and then now I'm going to run the program again, and you can see on the screen here the number 4 has been printed, meaning that this array has 4 elements. The other array method that we want to look is the push. The push method is an array method that is used to add a new element at the end of the list. So let us take a practical example of the push method. If you come in our code, you can see now we have this array with 4 elements. But let's say we want to add the next element, the next 5th programming language. So instead of going back to the array and manually adding it this way, we can use the array method push. So we're going to say programming languages, the array name dot push, and then we are going to provide the data that we want to push. So let us add the next programming languages. Maybe allow me to say R Studio. And now this R Studio will be added as one of the element or items within this list. And now when we print the new value of the length, it will no longer be 4, but rather it is going to be 5, because a 5th element has been added using this method right here. So now I'm going to print the array, so as I can see. So I'm also going to say console.log programming languages. So now when I run the program again, you're going to see that a new list has been printed, and now this element has been added at the end of the list, and the new number of items now becomes 5. Alright, so this is about the push method. The next array method I want us to look at is the pop. The pop method removes the last element from the array. So now let me come below this line, and I am going to use programming language dot pop, and then below this now I'm going to log a new value, console.log programming languages dot length, so that we can see how many elements are in the list after we pop or after we remove. So this removes an element from the list. This other method push adds an element to the list. The length gets the number of elements in the list. Okay, so now I'm going to save this program and let me run it again. And you can see now, first it has added the R Studio. Then second, it prints the number of elements as 5. Then after it runs this line 24, it removes one element at the end of the list, and then again it prints the length. Now after removing one element, we are now left with 4 elements which are printed right here. So that is all about a few number of these array methods, and I would urge you to also check out more of these array methods so that you can become familiar with the other array methods. Otherwise, that's all about the concept of JavaScript arrays, and in the next video we will take a look at the concept of JavaScript loops. Otherwise, thank you for joining this class and see you in our next class.